As always, if you haven't seen the whole series, I highly recommend watching it as there are some spoilers in this video. Evangeline and Percival have been through a lot to get where they are now. Looking at the married couple at the end of season 3 with their growing family makes it hard to believe that there was ever a time when they weren't in love. Seeing them fight and flirt at the same time makes it even more difficult to remember when they were just teenagers who got on each other's nerves. Their meeting was almost fate. If Ava hadn't been Amalia's bodyguard, then she wouldn't have run away with her to the Forbidden Forest. And if Rubelax hadn't taken control of Dally, he would have never been indebted to Yugo or helped him stop the Poulters. Right off the bat, it's clear to see that they're almost polar opposites. Dally's a yacht-brain goofball while Ava is a strategic genius. For a while, they were just annoyed at each other. Dally because of Ava's seriousness, and Ava because of how ignorant and silly Dally could be. They have endearing qualities that eventually broke the ice and let the bud of their relationship grow. Dally is loyal and never gives up, even when it seems like the world is going to end. In fact, he thrives in the doomsday environment. Ava is able to stay cool and comes up with brilliant plans of attack. She cares for people and is willing to put others above her own plans and needs, even when it could cause a major setback. Right off the bat, Dally is flirtatious with Ava. 1, because he's always dreamed of being a knight to save a princess, or fair maiden, from danger. And 2, because that's kind of just his personality. Evangeline, of course, finds his behavior as a nuisance. Even as Percival was swooning over her new appearance in the ugly princess tower, Ava simply sighed. Their relationship goes on like this as they continue their journey. As they spend more time together, they get to know each other closer and look past first impressions. When their feelings first started to be shown was on Oma. Dally and Rubelax teamed up to stop Grugalorogrand's fiery breath. Exhausted, Ava took his arm and helped him to safety. While this could just be two adventurers helping each other out, the next meaningful moment makes it seem like it was more significant. After being teleported to a frigid wasteland, most likely Frygost, Dally rushes off to get some fur to keep everyone from freezing. As Junior digs around in the ground, he claims it would make a good hat for Evangeline. This shows his desire to give something special to her. As night falls, Dally finds Ava shivering in the cold as she looks out at the sky. He tells her it'd be warmer if she stayed inside, but given the smell, neither of them seem to be considering that option very much. They have a sweet little conversation going back over their adventure and talking about how they saved each other. Dally casually mentions that Ava looked good in the dress that she wore during his rescue. This leads to them sitting next to each other, wrapped up in a large cloak for warmth, sharing an emotional gaze. After that night together, their relationship starts to grow quickly. They go through a rough time on their way to the Sadlygrove kingdom as Dally overhears the girls talking about Armand. Even afraid that she didn't actually have feelings for him, he valiantly steps up when the rogue leader tries to kidnap her to take her as his bride. The two have an explosive and epic makeup. After reaching the Sadlygrove kingdom, Dally shows his feelings are serious as they're led in a parade to the palace. As Amalia is being fawned over, since she's a beloved princess after all, Percival instead looks at Evangeline in a curious glance. It can be hard to understand what's going through characters' heads sometimes, but what I've always perceived this moment as is his wondering why Ava isn't getting some attention, even though she's always with Amalia. Dally takes up a fight with the prince, even after some talking to from the girls, but as soon as Armand mentions courtesy, Dally immediately accepts, trying to impress Ava and show her that he can use manners. The fight doesn't go well at all. In short, Rubelax takes control, Armand gets his butt kicked, Dally breaks Ava's bow, and flees to the desert in anguish. They both go through their own personal growth, overcoming challenges while they're apart. Even apart, they still want to be with each other. Ava was a bit hesitant to admit it, but her quickly growing emotions made themselves known. Their union was sweet and epic. Dally showed off his new look while still acting in the same goofball way. Fighting to save the world, they jumped to each other's aid as they needed it. Unfortunately, the reunited couple was separated once again as Dally jumped in front of Ava to save her. The blast proved fatal when he disappeared in the faithful Kral's arms. Devastated even after the victory, she turns him into a legend, spending her days by his statue. After Dally appears to her, letting her know that he's alive, she tells Amalia the good news. Amalia shrugs off the news, saying Ava's heard him speaking 3 times that week already. It could have easily been Dally trying to talk with her all that time, but if not, it shows how truly heartbroken she was. Even if their relationship formed quickly near the battle with Nox, their emotions were real. Once she goes through a drastic transformation, Ava sets off and makes the long journey to Rubelaxia. There were a lot of setbacks, but she finally made it to Dally. Well, kind of. Seeing her love again sparked her hopes, but realizing Rubelax took control and locked Percival in the sword was definitely a chip in her morale. not to mention hard to fully accept as reality. Roblox takes the opportunity to hurt Ava, probably to indirectly hurt Dally. But not in control of his own body, his love for Evangeline was so strong that his body itself refused to purposely injure her. The cat and mouse chase of getting Dally back from Remington was difficult, but they were finally reunited. Again. A sweet little moment in the reunion was when Ava was holding Dally in sword form close to her chest, as she couldn't hug him in person. Dally in return gets jealous of Rubelax as Evangeline tries to convince him to switch their bodies. There were so many sweet moments between the two. Dally apologizing about the Sirens luring him, Ava sticking up for him after beating the dragon pig, and the desire to hold each other even when they were turned into thirsters. Of course, there was the interesting moment of Evangeline. Her transformation into a guy to play Gabol was an experience. It brought some funny moments, and it was enjoyable to see Dally squirm when he thought about Ava being a guy forever. There's so many sweet moments that's a little bit difficult to list them all while saying how amazing they are. The next main challenge for the couple was Ava's sister Quelle. Dally takes not being told about it personally, as though she doesn't trust him with her secrets. At this point, they had known each other for a little over a year, so only then finding out about her sister, him being upset is reasonable. Cleo, being an aspiring hero and fangirl of the Brotherhood of the Tofu, only makes the strain between the relationship harder. Add in a bit of sibling rivalry and jealousy, and we have ourselves some interesting plot drama. Dally's a bit naive to Ava's jealousy, only viewing Cleo as a friend and someone who could admire Yop fighting style. Eventually, the sisters got over their bickering, and especially for the Battle of the Crimson Archipelago. One thing that helped calm Ava's nerves was the Siren Island incident. Okay, so in the moment, she was definitely not calm about her boyfriend being hypnotized by sirens and being turned into an ape. But seeing how sorry Dally was about the whole thing pulled at her heartstrings. After meeting Percival's master, aka his past incarnation and son, and facing Remington once again, the two agreed to settle down for at least a few months. A little bit after winning the battle against Kilby and saving the world once more, Ava reveals that she's pregnant. Before they could tell everyone under happy circumstances, Chibi and Grugel are stolen and Ferris is killed by Jiva. Seeing how powerful Jiva is and knowing that their quest would be dangerous, Dally tries to convince Ava to stay out of action and remain behind. Both feel afraid for the other. Dally worries about her getting hurt and something happening to the babies, while Ava is worried about Dally dying and her child growing up without a father. Despite worrying about their own survival, the two both worry about being ready for parenthood. After all, it kind of came settling on them. But of course, they ended up being great parents. Well, both of their kids ended up fighting alongside the Brotherhood at only like 5 years old, but don't worry about it. Ellie and Flippon only really got involved at Oropos Tower the next year, so a totally unacceptable age for them to be fighting a reasonable and understandable thing. Nothing at all concerning. Anyway, enough about the young fighting age. They're both part Yop after all. Before dealing with Count Hairberg, the Sadlygroves had a pretty peaceful life. Then Dally goes all Avatar state and breaks enchanted ice. Goltar drops the penny and reveals to Dally and the Brotherhood that Dally is in fact the Yop god reincarnated. All the Sadlygroves were shocked. The children were mostly in awe and excited, but their parents had other emotions running through their heads. Ava was concerned about the fact that Goltard was Dally's son. Who knew how many times he had been reincarnated and had families? Perhaps she wondered about what would happen if he ran into one of his past families. Dally never wanted to be a god. He wanted to be a legendary warrior, yes, but never a god. All he really wanted to do now was to live with his family in peace, maybe with a few fighting tournaments for fun, but nothing life-threatening. Dally takes it upon himself to protect his family with his newfound identity and stop Ogress from ever possibly hurting them in the rest of the world of 12. Ava is devastated by the thought of losing him again and feels guilty for pushing him into it. When he returns, she is overjoyed to have him back and knows she never wants to live her life without him. Ogress may have taken Dally's arm, but the Sadlygroves relationship was even stronger. They lived a peaceful life for about a year or two. The small family was ready to finally settle down into a calm and normal life. Well, as normal as a family with demigod children and a shoo-shoo. When Oropos sent Pooh and Toxian to get Ellie and Flippon, they couldn't have chosen a better time. Dally was weaker without his arm and hadn't trained much, and with Ava close to giving birth, she couldn't move as quickly as she could before. The third season let us see more of the personalities as they begin to grow up. The challenge of the Tower of Dreams pushes the children and shows their courage, loyalty, and determination. While Flippon and Ellie both have their different personalities, Flippon calmer and more collected, and Ellie rash and impatient, They're both competitive and brave. The Sadlygroves showed an interesting ability in the last season. When Ava was stabbed and went into labor, Dally and Ellie knew instantly that something was wrong, chills running up and down their spines as they sensed that something wasn't right. It could have been something connected to their divine blood. Dally was able to reach out to Ava during his captivity in Rubalaxia, and Ellie was already shown to use her powers to see her father while he fought Ogress. Maybe Dally felt what was wrong through his connection, and Ellie's divine ability picked up on it. After the most dramatic birth of the series, if you count as hatching as a birth, Evangeline welcomes Pin, mini Dally, into the world of 12. Well, technically just the dimension Orpo created, but close enough, you'll get there eventually. Having a little baby to take care of made it hard for Ava to help out in the final fight. Dally and Gultard teamed up again like old times to help Hugo in the fight against Orp. Besides the fight with Rushu, there hasn't really been a good team up with the father and son duo. When Dally had to fight his avatar, the Dark Vlad, it was one of the first times he really referred to Gultard as his son and showed how he regretted not being there for him. For most of his life, if anything, Gultard had been a father figure to the young Ya. While the main battle was taking place, Ellie and Flippon stay behind with their mother to protect her and their newborn brother. It shocked them all to find out Pin could hold his own ground against a skilled shapeshifter. I know Pin is a demigod and all, but seriously! If I was Ava, I would be a bit more concerned. The baby was born, then 10 minutes later it has its eyes open, punching family members, walking around, and fighting hairy monsters. That would definitely terrify me to see my baby do that. After seeing how strong the Sadlygroves are, and how much love they have for each other, it's hard to remember the time before Ava and Dally were married and had kids. Come to think of it, it's hard to even think that they once didn't know each other. Even when they were first falling in love, they treated each other like they've known each other for their whole lives. Wakfu has developed this family, giving us a satisfactory story and a couple to root for. I honestly don't know what else Ankama could do with the family, except for showing how they adapt with Pin in a war zone. Whatever they end up doing, I can't wait to see what it is. Let me know if you have any theories about the next season or what you think might happen to the Sadlygroves. If you want, let me know what your favorite moment between Percival and Evangeline was. And make sure you subscribe to be notified whenever I let out another Wakfu video. Au revoir mes amis, pour le confrère du Tovu.